In all my years of making Warhammer videos, I have received one question more than any other. How in the hell do you magnetize tanks? Here's how. Welcome, Traveler. My name is Blake, and this is Love, Death, and Dice. Before magnetizing anything, you need to figure out your storage layout. Are models being magnetized upside down, sideways, or are you laying them flat? Depending on your layout, you might need stronger magnets or a higher number of magnets. Remember that it's often easier to magnetize one big model that hangs over several smaller ones than the other way around. If your bin gets bumped during transport, it's only one thing that falls, not all of them. With your layout decided, I want to emphasize that you should magnetize and stress test everything before painting anything. Bump, shake, and lightly toss your bins to see how everything moves. I originally picked the wrong magnets. The falling damage, as well as clawing the magnets from the models, damaged my paint job, costing me time later. So keep that in mind. Some factions have hover vehicles or flyers. Usually, I just use a Cobalt Keep base and the included magnet for these because they are simple and reliable. If you're in a rush to get these fielded or don't care for the extra cost of Cobalt Keep, take a 10mm by 2mm magnet and glue it to the center of the base. If it's a heavier flyer, use multiple magnets on opposite ends. There's no need to use green stuff like many other tutorials suggest because our magnets are already thick enough. On average, a Warhammer base's bottom is like 2mm to 2.5mm thick. Our 2mm magnets won't always sit flush with the table like a Cobalt Keep base, but it's strong enough to keep it from moving. I avoid hanging any hover vehicles upside down as I never glue the vehicle to the clear peg. I like changing their poses during battle. You probably already own drill bits for kit bashing damage or, working on whatever normal people use these things for. Use the back of the drill bit to measure the spacing of each tread. Find a good width and use that magnet size. When tackling tanks, my first instinct was to drill a hole into the tread itself where where it's the thickest, but I realized that that's more trouble than it's worth. One magnet hole might be uneven with the others, making the model wobble, and you also need to figure out how to fill the cavity, often wasting more magnets to do. I don't care for that, so I just mount the magnet right to the tread with super glue. For smaller vehicles like rhinos, I use 4mm by 2mm. For medium vehicles like Land Raiders with their wider tread, I use 6mm by 2mm. One on each corner will prevent the model from sliding or swiveling in your storage. But if you want to mount these upside down or sideways, you need to increase the magnet count as needed. I've gone all the way up to 10 magnets for one vehicle. Trust your gut and those stress tests we talked about. Inevitably, some treads will not have the flat space you need to properly mount a magnet. Some Astra Militarum tanks and Xenos vehicles come to mind. People hardly ever see the bottom of these things, so I flatten one of the tread connections with my snips and hobby knife to make the flat space I need. For big boy vehicles like the Kratos or Spartan, which I know will hang over many smaller vehicles in my setup, I flatten a few portions of the tread and use 8mm by 2mm magnets. Yeah, it kinda sucks to cut away parts of your model, but that's the dance you gotta do to magnetize things that weren't meant to be magnetized. Luckily, the magnets are so thin that they often don't stick out much further than the tread connections, maintaining a grounded look, even at a side angle. Wheels are a bit trickier than treads since they don't have obvious flat areas to mount to, so all of you Votann players are going to need to put in a little extra work. Again, use a drill bit to measure the size of the magnet you need. For this Necromunda truck and buggy, I used 4mm by 2mm, though I could have gotten away with bigger ones. Find the flattest part of the tire's bottom and drill all the way through, ideally the thickest part, so there is a bigger wall for the magnet to hug. Apply superglue to each cavity, quickly apply the magnets, and press the vehicle onto a flat surface. This way, the magnets are all set evenly and are flush with the tire wheel. We are limited on magnet real estate with only 4 points, so I wouldn't hang a model like this upside down. To hang it upside down though, you could use a glob of green stuff and mount a stronger magnet to the chassis. This works as long as you don't mind something protruding from the bottom of the vehicle. If the idea of cutting up the bottom of your Warhammer vehicle appalls you, you can also get these things called magnetic anchors from Go Magnetic. Rather than mounting to the model, they encase it with rounded hooks. Another mount from Go Magnetic even uses magnets and string to strap down the model like cargo. I have never used these before, but I think they're a great idea for weirder models that have no clear magnetization point, like a Chaos Defiler. As of writing, they are a digital exclusive though, so you will need to have a 3D printer or hunt down a printing service to make use of them. With that said, those are all the techniques I currently know and use to transport my vehicles. Again, make sure to do all this magnetization and testing before painting these models. I didn't, so I'm gonna go fix those up. Until next time, subscribe, and happy painting.